Hi, welcome to My Messy Fingers. I'm Charlie. Today I am building a folio. I do want to give a shout out to Rosa Kelly. I was watching hers and I really liked what she did, but I've made a few changes to this that I think will meet my preference a little bit better. So I've put the measurements in the description, but if you've got a pen and a paper ready, and your cardstock ready, I will go over this step by step with you. Shouldn't take very long. You're going to need roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to need roughly 8 or 11 sheets of cardstock. I would encourage you to have at least 20, simply because cutting mistakes get made and you don't want to run out. This is for a waterfall, so I've got, let's just address that right now. I have 6 pieces of cardstock that are cut 5.5 by 7, and you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch along your 5.5 inch edge. So you're going to put this up to the top of your scoreboard, and then you're going to score lengthwise at a 1/2 inch on all 6 of these. Now these will be inserted into the folio a little bit later on, so let's just set those aside. Okay, you're going to want one piece, and you get this out of some of the scraps from cutting the larger pieces. You're going to want one piece that's going to measure 4.5 by 8. And then you're going to put this on the 4.5 inch side of your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 1 inch and 2 1/8. This piece here is what's going to wrap around underneath and go to the back of the folio. This is your base at the bottom. You're going to need one piece, because we're going to make a pocket. You're going to need one piece that measures 7 7/8 by 3.5. So we'll put that aside. Now, the very back of your folio, you're going to need a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. You're going to cut this. You're going to leave it 12 across here, but you're going to put it into your cutter this way, and you're going to cut it at 9 3/4. Then putting this on your scoreboard this way, so that you're scoring along the 12 inch line. You're going to score at 1 inch, at 2 inches, at 10 inches, and at 11 inches. All right? This is going to be your base. Now, I missed cutting one of these, but I'll give it to you here shortly. These gussets right here, first off, let me back up. I am using 100-pound weight cardstock. The heavier, the better, because this is going to be a book when you're done, and you don't want it flimsy and flopping around by using 65-pound weight cardstock. It's not going to work. 80-pound, I'm going to question it. 100-pound or higher. But these gussets in here are going to take a lot of weight, and I don't want my framework tweaking on me. So you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 9 1/4 by 7/8. And these are going to get glued or taped right in here. So it gives us a little bit more of it being a bit more rigid when you're working with this. This piece is, oops, where am I going here? Is 7 7/8 by 1 inch. And that is what is going in here on the bottom. Okay? So maybe I didn't miss a cut. All right, so we will work on putting all this together in just a moment. What I want to do is move on. Your flap, which is going to come over and close the folio, you are going to cut this. This is going to remain at 12. And then you're going to cut it at 8 inches. And then you're going to score at 9 3/4. You're going to turn it this way onto your scoreboard. You're going to score it at 9 3/4 and 10 7/8. This piece may be smaller or shorter, but it doesn't matter. It's going to go to the back once it gets taped on, because it's going to go on this way. Okay? Then you're going to need to cut 2 pieces that are 9 3/4 by 8 1/4, and then you're going to score each one of them at 1/2 along the length. 2 of those. You're going to want 1 piece that's going to measure 8 by 9 1/4. This is going to be a left side panel. We'll see that in a minute. You're going to cut one that's going to be 7 3/4 by 9 3/4. This is going to be a right side panel. And then for your right side, you are going to cut 2 that are going to be 9 3/4 by 7 3/4, and then you're going to score a 1/2 inch on your longest length. Okay, you're going to do that for each one of these. And I do believe, I got to take a look at something here real quick. Where'd it go? I think I may have, okay, so that 7 7/8 by 1 inch is actually for your top part. So what we need to cut is one for this piece. So I am quite sure that you have enough in your scraps that we're going to cut this at 7 7/8 by 7/8. So let's see if I can do that real quick for you. 7 7/8 by 7/8. I need to bring it in here. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to get an ugly trimmer because I don't want to ruin the blade that's in here. So bear with me while okay. So now this piece is going to sit in down here. I knew I was short a piece. Okay, let's take a look at putting this together. Now, if you've got all of your items, your papers all cut and trimmed and ready to go, make all of your score lines, and let's start with this piece. You have 2 sheets. One that measured at 8 by 9 3/4, and one that measured at 7 3/4 by 9 3/4. these are going to mount here on both sides, with this one being the top piece. So let's go ahead. I don't know if you want to use glue. I don't know if you want to use tape, but let's go in there and let's get this put together. By the time I get done doing this, I might be better off just using tape. Okay, I want this piece, and then I want to flatten this down. I should have done that to begin with. Then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to tap it on my tabletop because that will hopefully ensure that I have it nice and even along the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish that. However, I think what I am going to do is I'm going to use tape on this side. I need to get into my tape here. I'm just going to come right up to that score line, not touching it. You want to stay away from it. Just sneak up to it. And then I'm going to put one here along the edge. And then I'm going to bring in a helper here for just a second. It is really hard for me to see when I'm working black on black, so I'm going to have a piece of paper here when I'm gluing and taping. So that's going to be my helper. So just kind of ignore all my notes. Okay, where is it? This is our left side panel that we're putting on. Well, that's not coming up very nicely. Just a moment. And maybe the problem is I didn't burnish it. Okay. Now that I don't have sticky glue all over the place, I've just got sticky tape. Okay. I'm going to stand this up on my work table. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to eyeball this on the ends. Make sure I got it on the bottom. Aha, look at that. Bad girl, bad girl. I wasn't paying any attention, didn't get that on there straight. So we're going to bring out the undo. I'm unfortunately going to have to take this all the way off to the end because I can see that I was premature in thinking. I'm glad I didn't do that with glue, because that would have been a disaster. I'd have to recut those pieces. So let's try attacking it this way. Lay that front panel down, line it up so that it's nice and even. And we're going to come in here and burnish it. The undo will dry fairly quickly, so I'm not worried about the staining here. I find my lid here somewhere. There it is. I know this is difficult to buy in the state of California from what I understand. But you can find this on Amazon if you have never tried it before. Okay, so far this is the beginnings of our book. And as you can see what I was talking about, how there's nothing here to keep this from bowing a little bit. So at this time, before I get that big top flap, I want to go ahead and put in the two that are 9 3/4 by 7/8. Those are going to go in here. Now here I will use glue because I just have to be mindful of your score lines. Don't glue or tape this over So you want to come just in between the two score lines. Lay this down ever so gently and then give it a good burnish. You want to spread that glue so that it will do its job. So then when this comes up here, this piece has got some more strength to it. So let's go ahead and let's add this one. You want to also make sure that you're putting these on the inside score line gusset. Because you've got a gusset here, but you want it here. Don't put it on the wrong one. Okay. Now it takes on a little bit more of a boxy form because these ends aren't flopping around. Now, this piece, it's going to be easier for me to approach it from this side. So on this piece here, because you've got your base, you've got this gusset, and then you're going to have this one. I'm going to come right up to my score line. I'm going to hold it in place. And then I am going to, I don't know where my bone folder just went. Press that over. Oh, there you are. Now I did a measure on this. Right here at the end, there's about 1/8 of an inch. You can see where I put that score line. You know, I just decided it wasn't worth trying to trim off 1/8 of an inch. It's on the back side of this panel, so don't worry about it. What's going to be important is that you've cut this gusset and you've scored accordingly. Now, there is a gusset score line there that I want to encourage it to do its job. So I'm going to push back on it and then give it another score because I want it to stand up in there. Okay, now let's go ahead and put a 7/8 inch piece in there so that it's nice and rigid. I'm going to put it on this one. Okay, line this little guy up. So then when this closes, that's coming over the top. It'll look like that. Now, I want to close my bottom. I don't want it open. I don't want to see this on the bottom. I want this closed off. So I am putting a bottom piece on mine. So I'm going to, I hope I don't regret this. Tape is expensive. This glue is kind of expensive, but it goes a long way. Okay. So I'm sorry about all the flapping here. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I am coming up in between these two score lines, get that tucked in there really well, and then we're going to burnish. All right. Upside down. Okay, so these two will come in like this. This is going to come forward, and then we're going to have, oops, this is going to come underneath here. And then we're going to secure this closure with a couple of large magnets. But then what you have is a neatly framed in folio box. All right? Now we have this panel, this left side panel. We are not going to be adding any work to this, and I'll show you why. Let me get these out of the way here. This one's cut 1/4 inch shorter because it's going to be your inside page. But as you can see, this one lays on top of it, so there's no room in here, enough room in here for maybe 2 5x7 photos, maybe a thin papered element like an invitation or something, depending upon what kind of album you're making. But you will not be able to build any pockets on this side because it's going to be laying over here. What we're going to do, however, is build a slight pocket on this side. So let me get, I've got to straighten some things out here. Those two, okay, I've got her sorted now. So you should have two that measure 9 3/4 by 7 3/4. You have scored at a 1/2 inch on the length on both of these. Each one will fit here on either side of this page. So you're going to come in here and it's going to go in like this. So you're going to have, it's going to completely fold out. Now it's going to be easier for me to use tape on this than glue because I'm working with a smaller surface. I can control it a little better if I use tape. You can use whatever you wish. If you're good at gluing things, glue it. Okay. So now I am going to slightly turn this. I'm going to get it back in frame. And I'm going to come right up to this corner. I'm going to pinch it. I want to hold it there so that I can guide this the rest of the way down along that edge and then give it a good burnish. So there's one page. I apologize. I have a real bad habit of pulling my work to me. I don't know why I do that, but I apologize. I try to correct myself as soon as I see that I'm doing it. Get back in frame. All right, now this one, you have a gusset, not a gusset, a score line right here. This piece needs to come down just next to it. You do not want to cover that up because then you're going to mess with your hinge. So as I lay this down, you can still see that score line through there. And then these fold together. These will fold this way. All right. So now let's work on the inside. I'm going to tuck this behind so that I can work on this, as well as the bottom closure piece. I'm going to tuck it all in the back. So now you have two pieces that measure 9 3/4 by 8 1/4. You've scored each at a 1/2 inch along the length. These are going to come in here right on this score line, one on each side, your left and your right. So let's go ahead and let's put those in there. If you'll pardon me. All right. Now, as best as I can, I am going to, so bear with me while I'm bending over here, top to bottom, right up next to that score line, but not on it. So if I did that right, this should be able to fold and close, and it doesn't have any pressure pushing it back. So now let's go ahead and do this side. I've made several of these using a different pattern, which is nothing wrong with it at all. I just liked the box, but I did box and close that one. It ended up being 12 by 12, and I tell you, it was a challenge to make a folio that big, but I was playing with Stamperia's, one of their Lady Vagabond collections, and I loved the images and I wanted them big. All right, I'm laying this down right up next to that score line, and we're going to give her a good old burnish so that that tape stays down there. All right, now we have a pocket. This pocket is going to sit right here in between these two. It's a fairly deep pocket. We've got 6 5x7 photo cards here for a waterfall, and it will come down about here on the pocket, but these 1/2 inch are going to be up here. So you've got lots of room that you can actually still tuck in here. If you don't want it this big, if you don't want it 3 1/2 inches, cut it down. So I am going to, I will not use glue on this piece because glue spreads, and you're going to find that you'll have glue seep up here in the pocket, and then it will close the pocket, and or you can't get your items tucked in there. I apologize, I'm thinking about this tape. I want to leave enough room side by side. It's still going to be deep enough, so I don't care about using the 3/8 here on the bottom. That didn't fight me. Oh, I just feel so special. My tape is coming right off here. All right, being careful not to encroach on that score line. I'm just going to lift this page, line it up along the bottom, and then I'm going to lift this page, make sure I still have a good fit in there, and I do. All right, I should have run my tape on each one of these ahead of time, but I didn't, so I do apologize. But I'm going to need to put tape on all of these. Do that fairly quickly. I don't want to use glue here. I think there were 6 of these. What this album will allow you to do is play with those larger scrapbook papers that have beautiful large images. In fact, I've made this to accommodate an upcoming collection that I'll be getting. I'm just hoping that what I'm envisioning works out. All right, now I know this isn't gonna, well, maybe it will make some sense. Uh-oh. I'm going to turn this upside down because for me it's gonna be easier to do this. I want to come in off the top at about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to make a couple little tick marks. I'm going to take this off. And then I want to rest this right in between these two score lines at 1/2 inch. This is going to sit right in the center. You know what? I can't do this. I can't do this piece this way. I'm going to stop you right here. I do not want you putting these in, but this is what you're going to do with the rest of them. You're going to come in, and I have to take this piece off because there's a piece of paper that's going to go over this, then this should go over it, so it's your pocket. These are going to sit on top of your designer paper. So once you start lining all these up, you just tuck them up to each other, lay it down, you've pulled the tape, give it a good score. You're going to flip this one over, and then you're going to come up underneath here, and you're going to repeat that process until you've got all 6 in line. So I'm going to stop right here because I can't finish putting this together until, I could always put it together and use it as a sample, but then I've wasted all this beautiful black cardstock. So I'm going to turn it this way. So now you have big panels for putting gorgeous, large paper collections on them. And then this is all going to fold up. Those two are going to fold in over the waterfall. This is going to fold in here. We do need to mount our magnets. because those have to go down regardless. And I just saw another spot I want to put a couple of magnets, so let me get in here. I'm going to use a couple of large ones because I want it to really do its job. I don't think that these small magnets by Basic Gray, I don't think that they have enough power on them to hold a 100-pound cardstock plus the designer paper that's going to go on top of it. But I do know that these big magnets from Basic Gray can do the job. Okay. I want this and this to stay together. I'm going to put a tiny magnet here. I don't want them sliding around. So if you'll bear with me. Okay, I'm going to put it here about a 1/2 inch in. And then I want this to come right up to the edge. Let me give a good old burnish. Ta-da! So I'm hoping that that will work, but I'm just, because this is going to have designer paper here and here. So these small magnets should work. If they don't, wherever I put a magnet, I always glue my paper, not glue, I always use tape to put my paper down, so if I have to get into a magnet or readjust it, that I can, because I use my friend over here called Undo. So I will keep that in mind when I go to cover this. Okay, so I'm going to put a magnet there. And I'm going to put a magnet there. Okay. Hold this in here together. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to make sure that it's framed in good, that it's where it's supposed to be. Just a little bit of a struggle here. This side's not cooperating. There we go. And I don't, that one came off, slide them off of there so that you get a chance to get in here and really now press these in place. So now, there's your fully enclosed folio. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out, give me a shout, and thank you for visiting.